It began with a storm, the kind of storm that seemed to bleed from the sky itself. Black clouds stitched with lightning, wind that screamed like 1,000 wailing souls, and rain that hit the ground like shattered glass. The town of Willow Creek, nestled deep in the forests of northern Maine, had always been the kind of place that time forgot. But that night, something ancient remembered it. Eliza Reynolds had lived in Willow Creek her whole life, 37 years old, a school librarian by day and an amateur historian by night. She was quiet, thoughtful, and tethered to routine. When the power went out just past midnight, Eliza was halfway through transcribing a diary she had found buried in the local archives, one that dated back to 1872, written by a woman named Margaret Holloway, whose entries spoke of shadows in the woods and voices whispering from the cellar. The flashlight cast long, flickering beams across the paper as Eliza read aloud. November 12th, 1872. The wind howls like the dead tonight. The child has not returned. I see figures in the trees. God help me. They have eyes like coal and smiles like cracked glass. I fear the hollow has opened again. Eliza stopped reading. There was a noise, something subtle but not quite natural, a creaking, slow and deliberate, from the attic above her. She stared at the ceiling, heart beginning to thud. It could have been the storm or the house settling, but it wasn't. She stood clutching the flashlight and slowly made her way toward the attic door. The stairs groaned beneath her weight as if protesting her ascent. The air grew colder the higher she climbed, and by the time she reached the door, her breath came in puffs. She opened it. Nothing. Just dusty boxes, an old trunk, and a long-forgotten mirror propped in the corner. But something was wrong. Her reflection blinked. She hadn't. She stumbled back, slamming the attic door shut, chest heaving, lungs full of ice. She backed down the stairs, her hand never leaving the railing, eyes flicking over every shadow as if expecting them to move. And they did. Slightly. The power never came back. By morning, half the town had left. They didn't announce it. They didn't pack. They just vanished. Doors left ajar, meals half-eaten, pets still waiting at windows. By the third day, Willow Creek had become a ghost town. Only the most isolated, the most stubborn, remained. Eliza was one of them. At night, the lights across town flickered, not from electricity, but from candles. Faces sometimes appeared behind curtains in abandoned homes. Faces no one recognized. Their smiles were too wide, their eyes too black. She tried the police. Her calls never went through. She tried driving out, but every road looped back into town. Every turn brought her back to Willow Creek's welcome sign. Founded 1784, home to friendly faces. It was a lie now. The library became her refuge. Its brick walls felt thicker, older, as though they remembered the things from before and held them at bay. She started sleeping in the archives, surrounded by ancient records and forgotten letters. That's where she found the map. It was hidden beneath floorboards, wrapped in oilskin and marked with symbols she couldn't recognize. Circles with slashes, inverted crosses, a black tree with gaping roots. At its center, the hollow. It wasn't on any modern map, but according to Margaret Holloway's diary, it was once a meeting place for the old ones, beings from before men who fed on memory, sound, and fear. And they were waking up. Eliza made a choice. If she was going to die here, she would know why. She followed the map by flashlight, alone deep into the woods. The trees leaned too close, their branches twitching like fingers. The deeper she went, the quieter the forest became. No birds, no insects, just silence like a held breath. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time bent strangely here. Then she saw it, a clearing where no snow touched the ground, though winter had come early. In the center, a circle of black stones, and inside it, a well, the hollow. Eliza approached, compelled by something deeper than curiosity. The stones radiated cold, and the well's mouth breathed a mist that stank of rot and old metal. She heard whispering, not in her ears, in her mind. They knew her name. They had always known. She tried to run. She couldn't. Her legs moved, but not in any direction she controlled. The well pulled at her, the way dreams do when you know you're asleep but can't wake. She teetered at its edge, staring into the abyss. And something stared back. A face not quite human, not quite real, shimmering like heat on pavement, with eyes like voids and a mouth that opened far too wide. It whispered in 1,000 voices. You are the last light, Eliza, and the dark is hungry. She fell, or was pulled. She doesn't remember. She awoke in her bed. The sun was shining. Birds chirped. The town looked normal again. People walked their dogs. Children played. But something was wrong. Their eyes were too black. Their smiles too wide. They greeted her, called her name, waved cheerfully. But their voices echoed. Too many echoes. She locked herself inside and hasn't come out since. She writes now, compulsively, every detail she can recall, every crack in reality she sees. Because it's spreading, Eliza is no longer sure she escaped the hollow, or if the hollow came back with her. She watches from her window, eyes never leaving the street, the endless parade of perfect neighbors with their false cheer and dead smiles. Every night at midnight, the well appears in her yard. She no longer sleeps, and she prays you never find Willow Creek, because if you do, they'll already know your name. The town of Black Hollow had a rule, one passed down in whispers and warnings, never written down, never spoken to outsiders. Never answer a knock on your door after midnight, no matter how much it sounds like someone you know. Of course, when Alan Crow bought the old colonial house at 131 Willowbend Drive, no one told him. He was a city man, young, successful, skeptical, the kind who laughed at ghost stories and blamed creeks on plumbing. After a messy breakup and a burnout from corporate life, he wanted peace. The real estate agent called it charming and rustic. The price was suspiciously low, but Alan chalked it up to small-town economics. The house was old, 1857, creaky floors, narrow hallways, a cellar that stank of mildew and soot. But Alan didn't care. He had books, wine, Wi-Fi, and no one to bother him. He thought he'd found paradise. The knocking started on the third night. He was reading in bed when it came. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door, the kind that feel heavy, like fists. Thump, thump, thump. Alan glanced at the clock. 12:16 a.m. His brow furrowed. Who the hell knocks at that hour? He grabbed a flashlight and crept down the stairs. The wind howled outside, rattling the old windows. He reached the door but saw nothing through the peephole. Just the empty porch and swaying trees. He opened it. No one. Only darkness and wind. The next night the same knock came. 3 thuds. Exactly the same rhythm. Exactly 12:16 a.m. Again he found no one. But this time something had changed. The welcome mat was wet. Muddy footprints led up to the door, but none away. Alan tried to rationalize it. Pranksters, raccoons, tree branches, anything but what it felt like. That something had come to the door, waited, and stayed. The third night, he didn't open it. He stayed in bed, gripping his phone like a weapon. The knocking came again, louder, then it moved to the side door. Thump, 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 then to the back. Thump, thump, thump. Alan called the sheriff the next morning. Sheriff Dale was old, gray-bearded, and unusually quiet. He listened, then nodded slowly. "You opened the door the first night?" he asked. "Yeah." The sheriff didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "If it comes again, don't answer. Don't speak, don't look. And no matter what, don't unlock that door." He left without another word. Alan thought the man was senile, but that night, the knocking didn't come. Instead, it started whispering his name. It came from inside the walls, just past his hearing, just under the floorboards. "Alan!" It was a voice like paper tearing underwater. He barely slept. On the fifth night, he set up a camera at the front porch. He pointed another at the back door. When the knocking came again, he didn't move, didn't breathe. The sounds moved around the house. The doors rattled in their frames. And then, silence. He reviewed the footage the next morning. The camera showed nothing. Not nothing as in empty, but nothing. Blackness, as if someone had erased the frames from the tape. Between 12:16 a.m. and 12:34 a.m., there was no data, no sound, just void. He checked his phone recordings, all corrupted. Something didn't want to be seen. That night, Alan heard footsteps above him, but there was no second floor. The attic? He grabbed a bat and climbed the narrow ladder. Cold hit him like a slap. The attic was empty, mostly, except for a small wooden rocking horse facing the corner. He didn't own one. He turned to go, but heard it creak, once, twice, slowly rocking back and forth. He bolted. That night it knocked again, but this time it spoke. "Alan, it's me. Open the door." It was his mother's voice, software loving, but his mother had been dead for 6 years. He sat in the dark, shaking, as it repeated the words again and again. "Alan, it's me. Please let me in. It's cold." When he didn't answer, the voice changed. It became her scream. It screamed for 27 minutes straight, then silence. He didn't leave the house for 2 days, didn't eat, didn't sleep. Shadows danced in the corners of rooms where light couldn't reach. The mirrors started warping his reflection, subtly at first, then grotesquely. His own face grinned at him while he wept. On the 7th night, it didn't knock. It was already inside. He found the cellar door open. It had been locked since he moved in. The padlock was on the floor, twisted open like soft clay. A stairway descended into pitch black. He should have run, but something pulled at him. Not physically, but emotionally. Like guilt, like sorrow, like the promise of peace. He stepped down. The air grew thick, soupy, hot like breath. The walls pulsed, wet, alive. In the center of the room was a mirror, full length, old, cracked. It showed a different room, a perfect version of his house. Bright, warm. His mother stood in the doorway, smiling. "Come home, baby," she said. He stepped forward, but something behind him whispered, "Don't trust the glass." He turned. Nothing. When he looked back, the mirror now reflected something else. Himself, but emaciated, hollow-eyed, rotting. It raised its hand. So did Alan. It opened its mouth. So did Alan. But the reflection grinned wider and didn't stop. Alan screamed, ran, slammed the cellar door shut and nailed it closed. That night it knocked again, only once. Then it whispered, "We are already inside." Now he doesn't know what's real anymore. The mirror in his bedroom changes daily. Sometimes it shows strangers, sometimes things that look like him, but older, or dead, or laughing. Once it showed the outside, his porch, and something standing at the door, watching. But when he looked, the porch was empty. He tried to leave town. The road never ends. He drove for 6 hours and came right back to his driveway. He tried burning the house. The fire wouldn't catch. He called everyone he knew. They all said, "Who's Alan?" "He's alone," except for them. They knock every night now, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 13. And now they've started tapping on the windows too. One night just before dawn, he made a mistake. He asked, "What do you want?" The voice smiled through the door and answered, "A place to stay." And something entered. It's been days since he's seen his own reflection. Every mirror shows something else now. Sometimes it's you. So if you hear a knock after midnight, even if it sounds like someone you love, even if it begs or cries or promises something you need, do not open the door, because once they're invited in, they never leave.